Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
It started like any other quiet evening. My husband Joshua was delayed at work. I was washing dishes, the hum of the dishwasher filling the kitchen, when the sudden clamor of the front door swinging open echoed through the house. Lindsay, my mother-in-law, who had been peacefully crocheting in the living room, startled and looked up sharply. "Kimberly," a sharp voice rang out. It was Judy, my sister-in-law, her stilettos clicking angrily against the hardwood floor. Behind her, Alan, her husband, sauntered in with his usual smug expression. "What is this stranger doing in our house?" Judy spat, her gaze locking onto me as if I were an intruder in my own home. "Judy," I began calmly, wiping my hands on a dish towel. "This is my home too, and I would appreciate a bit of respect." "Respect?" She scoffed, tossing her designer handbag onto the couch. "You're just a freeloader, Kimberly. Don't think for a second that you belong here." Lindsay stood up, her hands trembling slightly but her voice steady. "Judy, that's enough. This is Kimberly's home and she's been nothing but kind to me." "Kind?" Alan chimed in, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "What about family, Lindsay? Blood is thicker than water, or have you forgotten that?" I clenched my fists, trying to maintain my composure. "What do you want, Judy? Alan?" Judy's eyes flashed with indignation. "We're here to make sure Mom's taken care of, and frankly that means you should step aside." "Taken care of? By raiding the fridge every time you're here?" I shot back, my patience wearing thin. "Or by demanding money whenever you see fit?" Lindsay's face paled. "Kimberly." "No, Lindsay," I interrupted gently but firmly. "This needs to be said." Alan smirked, leaning against the doorway. "So feisty today. But let's be real, Kimberly. Without your husband Joshua, you are just a guest here." The tension in the room was suffocating. Lindsay, though visibly shaken, stepped closer to me, her resolve strengthening. "Judy, Alan, if you're here to cause trouble, you can leave. Kimberly and I are fine without your interference." They exchanged glances, clearly not expecting Lindsay to stand up to them. But before leaving, Judy hissed, "This isn't over." As the door slammed shut, I exhaled slowly, my heart pounding. "Lindsay, are you okay?" She nodded, though her hands still trembled. "We'll get through this, Kimberly, together." Little did we know this was just the beginning of a storm that would test every ounce of our resolve. The morning started like any other, with Joshua humming to himself in the kitchen while preparing his coffee. I was rushing to leave for work, Lindsay chatting with him about their plans for the day. It felt normal, safe, like a small bubble of peace we carved out amidst the chaos Judy and Alan often brought into our lives. But by mid-afternoon my phone rang, shattering that bubble. "Mrs. Peterson?" The voice on the line was calm but urgent. "This is Dr. Collins from St. Mary's Hospital. Your husband, he's suffered a stroke." I don't remember how I got to the hospital. The next thing I knew, I was in a sterile room. Joshua hooked up to machines, his hand limp in mine. Lindsay sat beside me, pale and trembling. "Joshua, please," I whispered, my voice cracking. "You promised me a lifetime. You can't leave now." Lindsay sniffled beside me, clutching a tissue. "He's a fighter, Kimberly. He'll pull through." But her words sounded hollow, even to herself. The doctor returned, his face grim. "We'd done everything we could. The stroke was severe and his body, it's shutting down." "No," I said, shaking my head. "No, this can't be happening." Joshua's fingers twitched weakly as if trying to reach out. "Kim," he rasped, barely audible. "Take care of Mom." His eyes fluttered closed, and the monitor beside him flatlined. Lindsay let out a heart-wrenching sob, burying her face in her hands. I sat frozen, the weight of the loss crashing over me like a tidal wave. The ride home was silent, the air thick with grief. That evening the house felt emptier than ever, despite Lindsay's presence. Joshua's laughter, his warmth, it was all gone. And yet, as I sat on the couch staring at the untouched dinner table, I knew I couldn't crumble. For Lindsay, for myself, I had to hold on. The loss of Joshua wasn't just the loss of a husband. It was the loss of the glue that had held us together. But even in my despair, I knew one thing. I wouldn't let Judy and Alan destroy what little we had left. It didn't take long after Joshua's funeral for Judy and Alan to strike. Barely a week had passed when I came home from work to find them in the living room. Judy was lounging on the couch, her shoes kicked off, while Alan rifled through the fridge. Lindsay sat stiffly in the armchair, her lips pressed into a thin line. "What's going on?" I asked, setting my bag down. Judy looked up with a smirk. "Oh, Kimberly, don't be so dramatic. We're family. We thought we'd keep Mom company." Alan emerged from the kitchen with a soda and half a sandwich. "We're here to help. You can't expect her to handle everything alone." "She's not alone," I said sharply, crossing my arms. "I live here too." Judy's tone turned icy. "Well, maybe you shouldn't. Joshua's gone now, and this house belongs to our family. Blood relatives, Kimberly, not in-laws." Lindsay finally spoke, her voice trembling. "Judy, this is Kimberly's home too. She and Joshua made it theirs." But Judy wasn't listening. She waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, please. Mom, you don't need her here, eating up your money and space. Alan and I can take care of you." "Take care of her?" I scoffed. "You've done nothing but take from her for years." Alan stepped closer, his towering frame meant to intimidate. "Watch your mouth, Kimberly. We're not going anywhere. And if you don't like it, maybe you should leave." The tension in the room was suffocating. I turned to Lindsay, who looked at me with pleading eyes. "We'll talk later," I said, forcing myself to stay calm, "but this isn't over." As I retreated to my room, I could hear Judy and Alan laughing as if they'd already won. My fists clenched at my sides. This was my home, our home. If they thought they could just walk in and take over, they were in for a rude awakening. I stayed up late that night, sitting at the small desk in my bedroom with papers spread out before me. Every mortgage statement, insurance policy, and legal document Joshua and I had ever signed was laid out in careful order. If Judy and Alan wanted to fight, I would fight back with facts. The next morning, as Judy brewed coffee in my kitchen like she owned the place, I approached Lindsay in the dining room. "We need to talk," I said, my voice low but firm. Lindsay nodded, her hands trembling as she gripped her teacup. "I don't know what to do, Kimberly. They've always been like this, pushy, manipulative. But now it's unbearable." "That's why we're stopping it," I said. "Judy thinks she's entitled to everything, but this house legally belongs to all of us, you and me. I've already called a real estate agent to appraise it." Lindsay's eyes widened. "Sell the house?" "It's the only way to get them out," I explained. "We'll use the money to start fresh somewhere else, somewhere safe." Just then, Judy appeared in the doorway, her arms crossed. "What's this I hear about selling the house?" I met her glare with a steady gaze. "It's none of your business." "None of my business," she barked. "This is my mother's home." "And your mother agrees with me," I shot back, standing my ground. "If you don't like it, you're welcome to leave." Alan joined her, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Oh, real tough, Kimberly. Let's see you actually pull it off." I smiled coolly. "Watch me." Judy's face twisted in fury, but I didn't care. The papers were already in motion, and this time they wouldn't have the upper hand. As they stormed out of the room, Lindsay squeezed my hand. "Thank you," she whispered. "Don't thank me yet," I said, my determination hardening. "This is just the beginning." The house was sold. It hadn't taken long, just a few signatures and a quick exchange. The whole thing felt unreal. The months of planning, the quiet secrecy, had paid off. I didn't give anyone a chance to stop me. Lindsay and I were going to live for a while in a townhouse I rented in a nearby town, away from everything we knew. On the day of the closing, I packed Lindsay's things with careful precision, not a single item left behind. We were leaving it all, everything that held us in place. The moment Judy stepped inside, her eyes scanned the empty rooms, the weight of what had happened crashing down on her. "Where's Mom?" she demanded, her voice high and shrill. I shut the door behind me, my hand steady on the knob. "Safe," I answered, keeping my voice calm despite the adrenaline that pulsed through me. "And far away from you." Alan appeared from behind, his face twisted with disbelief. "You can't do this, we're family." His words were desperate, but there was no turning back now. I locked eyes with him, my patience slipping. "You had your chance to act like family," I said, my voice tight with emotion. "But you chose to bury it. Now it's too late." For a moment, no one moved. Alan's jaw clenched as he struggled to comprehend. Judy stood frozen, her eyes wide with confusion. I felt the anger build in me, but there was no time for that now. I turned on my heel, heading toward the car, my heart pounding in my chest. As I reached the driveway, Lindsay was already waiting in the passenger seat. The engine roared to life. I glanced back at the house one last time. A sudden wave of relief washed over me. I was free. But just as I put the car in reverse, I saw movement in the rearview mirror. Alan. He was running toward us, a wild look in his eyes. "You think you can just leave?" he yelled, his voice full of fury. I slammed my foot on the gas pedal. The tires screeched, the car lunging forward. I didn't look back. It was over. And though the future was uncertain, one thing was clear. Lindsay and I were free, and nothing would stand in our way now.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.